Welcome to Embracing New Life, the podcast that seeks to have conversations at the intersection of mental health and Christianity. And this is full episode Friday, where once we've completed a series or parts of an interview or a topic that we're discussing, we release it in its entirety. So today is the full Friday episode of our interview with Pat Sweeney. If you've already listened to those two parts that we released these past weeks, then you haven't missed anything. If you listen to this, great. But if you don't, you're not missing out on anything. But without any further ado, here is full episode Friday and our interview with Pat Sweeney. Welcome back to Embracing New Life, and on today's episode we have once again another one of our colleagues, Pat Sweeney, who will be joining us today, and so we hope you enjoy the episode and we'll dive into it. Welcome, Pat.
Yeah, welcome, Pat.
Glad to be here.
And you're just shy of 3 years with us.
That's right.
And I'm so thankful you're here. You're in a second career at this point, and how did you get to this point?
Well, it's a really great question. Actually, it's probably a third career because when I graduated from college, I'm not going to go in the way of Ed fishing too far, but I actually began my working career as a journalist and did that for 3 years and really enjoyed the experience of gathering information, being able to distill it down in a way that I could share with my customers, which were readers of the newspapers that I worked for. And right after I got married, I really felt like I wanted to do something different, and so I kind of changed directions and went into the world of corporate communication. And did that for almost 30 years. And then probably about the time that I turned 50, I really felt like I wanted to do something different with my life. I kind of felt like I'd climbed the corporate ladder as far as I wanted to go, and really felt the Holy Spirit kind of leading me to say, hey, maybe you want to do some things that have been done for you from a counseling perspective. And I had been through counseling in my mid to late 40s, and my husband and I had done some tune-ups with a faith-based therapist, and it was really impactful. And we just celebrated 35 years of marriage, and I'm convinced that one of the reasons why we were able to get to this point in our marriage was because of the help that we got from a really good, seasoned therapist. So probably around the time I turned 50, I was looking at this and felt like I needed to make a change. So began the process of taking prerequisite classes so that I could enroll in graduate school to become a therapist. So taking courses a little bit at a time while I continued to work full time, raised my 2 sons. That gave me the opportunity to get to an age where I could retire and then finish my clinical work, graduate, and join everyone here at New Life.
Yeah,
That's
we're
awesome.
so glad you did. What areas did you study during your graduate work?
Well, I did a little bit of everything. I took quite a bit of coursework in trauma. I did marriage and family. A lot of the basic stuff that we all have to take. In terms of modality, studied a lot of different things. The graduate program at Mount Mary really focuses on what we know as person-centered therapy, where we're really putting the client first and meeting them where they're at from a perspective of respect and empathy and caring, and kind of walking with them in the journey for whatever it is they're dealing with.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have any classes that you really enjoyed throughout your program? I mean, I'm sure all of them had their own unique things that you enjoyed about them, but ones that you look back on are like, I wish I could retake that class.
I really liked the trauma work. One of my instructors, who I'm still close with today, very involved in trauma work with individuals who've been trafficked. Just really found the class very engaging. Also really liked group. I really liked group work.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And, being able to put together a curriculum and work with clients on a particular issue that they were dealing with, I really, really enjoyed. But I really do like working with couples. Didn't do a lot of that in school because most of the practice work and the case study work we did was more of individual.
Sure.
But really, really enjoy the couples work because, I feel pretty strongly that if we can help marriages improve and help couples engage and create a healthier relationship, that just transcends all of the other relationships that they are involved with, particularly with their children. And, so often we see so many clients coming in, and when we start talking about some of the root causes of some of the issues that they're dealing with, they had really tumultuous childhoods. And so really trying to work with couples to help them develop the tools that they need to really have the best marriages they can have.
That's awesome. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, sometimes referred to marriage as our laboratory to run experiments on how to love and be loved. And I hear you describing working with couples, helping them learn how to do what they're most typically very much desiring. What are, we've heard the phrase sometimes that, well, that's not the person I married. And I've sometimes, somewhat jokingly, sometimes seriously, commented, well, that's good to hear. Because as a couple continues, we grow, we change. There are transitions that we encounter. In your work with couples, what are some patterns you've seen in terms of different phases of a relationship and what the challenges are to a couple?
Sure. Well, it begins oftentimes right out of the gate when they first get married and just establishing a home and deciding, who does what and how to manage things like money. Do we combine our resources or do we keep them separate? Where are we going to live? Do we want a pet? I don't know. How and that is one big transition in and of itself. And then eventually when they decide baby makes 3, that is a huge transition, right? Because oftentimes couples begin their families, they may not have had a lot of time adjusting to being a couple.
Yeah.
And then they introduce a baby, and right, we've all been there. It's like, oh, well, what do you mean we have to do things differently because this child has come about? And talking about and oftentimes renegotiating roles and responsibilities, which doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
That's certainly one of them. And as kids get older and suddenly, being pulled in different directions, and particularly for couples who are raising school-age children and also dealing with aging parents. We've often heard the term the sandwich generation.
Yep.
And I have couples who are struggling with that right now. I myself have adult children, but I have a mother who is aging and needs some help, and how do we do that well? So those are some of the ones that I'm dealing with that I think are really significant that people don't always think about.
Yeah.
Another really big one is what we all eventually look forward to, and that's retirement. We go from having the kids, working, right? You work. Eventually the kids leave the nest, which is also a big transition, right?
Big transition.
Empty nesting.
Yep.
Sometimes they leave the nest and they
And
come back.
Yep.
Right? Especially nowadays. But definitely when an individual retires, there's a real issue around identity because for many individuals it's like, I got all of this affirmation and recognition and all of that at work, and now I'm home. What am I going to do now?
Yeah.
We're designed to do meaningful activities. And we're not designed for leisure. Leisure's a subset of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And yeah, when that transition occurs where what is meaningful, what am I doing that influences, has a purpose, that's a real threat to many people.
Yes, yes. And that is a transition. Some of the ones that I've talked about are by choice. We choose to get married, we choose to have children, we choose to pick that date when we retire. Another transition that is more and more common, I think, over the last 20 years is the transition of careers, whether by choice or involuntarily, where individuals suddenly find themselves at a point where their job may be going away or they've been laid off, and there's a real sense of shame and fear and anger, and just processing through that and helping clients to realize that this is really tough. Nobody likes to go through this, but it's okay. They're not alone.
Yeah.
There are resources to help them to do that. And it's very, very, very difficult. Or when individuals like myself, they're feeling like, I don't know that I want to do this for the rest of my life. Or I don't like my job, but it's what I know.
Yeah.
And the fear of the unknown can oftentimes prevent people from exploring something that might have much more impactful meaning in their lives. So, yeah.
Yeah. Challenging things.
Sometimes the challenges present that aren't of our choice. And sometimes in those scenarios, that sense of helplessness can be really pervasive. What are some things that you've done with individuals or couples when they have that sense of helplessness, discouragement? What can we do in such scenarios?
Well, sometimes it's really, really helpful to just talk about it, to verbalize it, to acknowledge it, because we naturally assume that what we're going through is unique to us.
Yeah.
And that we don't necessarily, no one knows what it's like to be in our skin. And to a certain degree, that's true. Everyone is different and deals with these issues differently. But, part of what I try to explain to people is that this is so common
For sure.
today, and what they're experiencing is real
Yep.
and to be expected, and to work through it. And a lot of times people around them may not understand, why is this such a big deal? It's just a job. Or just treat your spouse better.
Just do it.
Just do it, right? And or you're worrying about this too much. What's the big deal? You just got to move on. Really not acknowledging what they're feeling. So what I really try to do is acknowledge that what they're going through is expected and normal, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And then we talk about what are some things that they really find exciting or enjoyable, for example, in their current work. If we look at the workspace, what did you really like about your job? Or what do you like about your job? What don't you like about it? What are you really passionate about? And we start to explore those things and then see how those desires and those passions might translate into something that could be a vocation for them.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not necessarily a vocation. Sometimes just having those conversations with people who are maybe dissatisfied in their work is enough to say, you know what? Maybe this work isn't so bad. Maybe it's how I've been looking at it. Right?
So changing expectations, perspectives, interpretations makes a huge difference.
Right. When we think about stress, for example, I'm trying to remember who I read recently who just talked about this. There are two ways to deal with it. One is to eliminate the stressor, and the other is to change how we respond
For sure.
to the
Yeah.
stressor.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so many times we can't eliminate the stressor.
Right.
Our human tendency, I want the situation to change, I want the other person to change.
Right.
Yeah, that isn't under our control. But how we cope, that's where we can put our attention.
And oftentimes when people feel helpless, I bring out the wheel, and a number of us use this, like what's in my control and what isn't in my control.
Yes.
And those are some things that we sometimes take for granted. Like we don't realize, actually I'm not in charge of my partner's emotions.
That's right.
I'm not in charge of their behaviors. Even with our children. We always want to try and keep managing our kids' behaviors. Oftentimes because we assume that their behavior is a direct reflection on us. And it's really helping couples and parents to understand, there's a lot that really is in your control.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we walk through that, they're like, I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah, we do have agency in our story.
Yes.
And you got to return to that because there is a lot that we don't control. Like there is a lot that we encounter in life that we can't control. So returning back to agency is really important.
The other thing that I find with couples when they're feeling helpless and hopeless is just sitting down and exploring how they connect with one another, how they talk, how they communicate and share information together. And I often find that over time, there's more of, my spouse should know me enough that they should just assume that this is good or this is bad or this is right or this is wrong. And they don't talk about it. They will give all kinds of signals, but they won't talk about it. And just sitting down and working through some really good evidence-based talking tips can do wonders.
For sure. Yeah.
And even particularly about subjects that couples are not comfortable talking about, whether it's from finances to, what happens in the bedroom. Just giving them the ability to be able to talk through those things can make a huge difference and kind of reignite a sense of hopefulness in their relationship.
So shame will block us from talking about these really important parts of a relationship. And shame loses its power when it's exposed. So the talking about it is how we resolve shame around. Maybe it's sexual relationships, financial management, interest, whatever the issue might be. Sometimes it's just so helpful to a couple to have a safe place, a third person that's going to facilitate development of understanding.
Yeah.
I find a lot of couples are inhibited by the fear that their spouse will either criticize them or think less of them. Sort of that, if you really knew me, you wouldn't like me phenomena.
Sure.
What are some things that we can do to help such a couple move through that barrier, that hindrance?
Well, one of the things that I talk with couples about is the idea that when we do marry, we only know a little bit about each other, kind of what we've presented in those early infatuation, I'm going to be on my best behavior kind of stage, right? So that we find commonality, we find connection, we find mutual love and respect and friendship. But, there are times where, my spouse, I don't really like his driving habits, but I'm not saying anything to him while we're dating because I don't want to scare him off. So, maybe I'll change him, or maybe I'll change her, right? We marry, everybody thinks everything is going to get better, and it doesn't always. But one of the things that we talk about is we're not going to be the same people
That's right.
that we were. And that's, marriage is probably the most difficult relationship that we'll be in, because it is a relationship of choice. And it's the place where we want to create a space where we can learn and grow together and help each other to learn and grow and be the best people that we can be. And from a spiritual perspective, recognizing that, God has created a relationship called marriage so that we can be together in covenant and be able to help each other be the people that He created us to be.
Yeah.
Tim Keller talks about this in his book, The Meaning of Marriage. He likens marriage to a rock tumbler. And, rock tumblers, you put these kind of unattractive, they haven't reached their full potential, puts it in the tumbler, and you got to put in sand and water, and the friction and the tumbling removes the impurities so that when you take out those two rocks, they're shiny, they're beautiful, they're glorious. And that marriage does that. I mean, there's friction, there's tension, but it doesn't always have to drive us apart.
Exactly. Yeah.
It helps to make us better, to kind of show and maybe highlight those impurities, but then be able to surrender those in our faith and be able to grow and learn from them.
And so this is the process you're describing of learning how to love a imperfect person, learning how to receive love from an imperfect person. And as soon as we sort of catch up in getting to know them, they've grown a little more. And so we're always learning more who they are and helping them learn who we are, because we're changing also.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And when I think of, and when I think of my own marriage, I mean, I am definitely not the same person that I was when I met my husband almost 40 years ago, nor is he the same person. And we have grown a lot. We are less volatile. We say fewer stupid things. We still say them. But part of that is, right? We say, why do you still, clean the bathroom this way? Or, and it's just like, there are just some things that we will agree to disagree on.
Yeah.
Yes.
But what I think time has taught us, and, going through struggles is, our marriage and our relationship is the most important relationship next to our relationship with our God. And we can't let little things come in between that. There's going to be lots of distractions, lots of issues, particularly with children, that can kind of put us in a position where we're either going to agree or we're going to disagree. But being able to work through those together has been really important. I kind of like to talk about that as kind of the secret sauce.
Yeah.
You got to be comfortable to be able to talk about things in a way that doesn't make us defensive. And sometimes it's not fun to hear it, but to be able to create a space where we can talk about issues and do so with love and respect and be open to the influence of the other.
Yes.
Is huge.
It's really important for us in such relationships to learn the difference between this is uncomfortable and this is dangerous.
Yeah.
And dealing with another human being, many times it's awkward. We stumble. We're not real smooth at it. That's normal.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've observed sometimes in my office is couples have watched a lot of romantic comedies and such, and they have this expectation that relating should be really easy.
Yeah.
And then when it isn't, there's something wrong with you. But I hear you describing relating is challenging. It can be hard. That's normal. That's realistic expectation. That actually brings good.
Yeah, for sure. And nowadays, sometimes it's even more challenging. I mean, when you think about there are varying views on the political scene, and oftentimes couples will come in and they are, one believes one set of political circumstances, virtues, whatever, and the other believes the other. And, I've often seen it firsthand where it really can come in and turn things upside down. And so, because, they're like, how can you possibly believe that? Well, how can you possibly believe that? Well, you're wrong. And so working through that with them, to say, how important is this in the context of your marriage?
Yeah.
To try and convince each other that your position is right. And a lot of times where they land is it really isn't.
Yeah.
I kept chuckling as you described that. One set of my grandparents lived in the state of Washington, and my grandfather was the chair for the county of the Republican Party, and my grandmother was chair for the Democratic Party for a very long time, meaning like my whole childhood.
Isn't that amazing?
And it was so much fun to hear them tease about it. And again, this was in the 60s, which was a very tense time.
Yeah.
But somehow they found a way to have some very different perspectives on how to maybe proceed in some areas and have not only mutual respect but enjoyment of each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in part goes back to what is most important to us, me being right or loving and receiving love.
Yeah.
Those are two very different goals.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that gets to the heart of, whether it's couples or whether it's transitions, it gets to the heart of the mindset of humility
Yes.
mingled with curiosity
Yes.
and intentionality. Because, we don't know everything, whether it comes to our spouse or somebody else, and we shouldn't expect ourselves coming into a new transition in life to know how to figure it out because it's new to us. And having that curiosity that allows us, and humility, that allows us just to take a posture of like, hey, I'm cool. I can learn as I go, and I can have compassion for myself because I don't have to act like I have it all figured out.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, that word of curiosity. If we can replace judgment with curiosity.
For sure.
And when couples are able to do that, I see a softening, a tenderness start to develop, where before there was a guardedness. I don't want to be judged, so I end up judging you. Or if I'm curious, now I'm wanting to understand.
Yeah.
Yes.
And every one of us wants to be understood.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that touches our real need.
If only Bears fans would be curious about Packers fans.
Because we are curious about Bears fans.
That's what you say. So tell me why you really like that team. I really want to know. But I do think that you raise an excellent point because, there is that fear. Okay, if my husband believes something completely different from me, rather than the right versus wrong, is to say, okay, I'm going to be humble enough to say, well, maybe my point of view isn't right. But the curiosity and intentionality to say, well, help me. I really want to know what is it about your position what got you there? I really want to know that. I want to hear, the basis for that. And at the end of the day, may not agree with it, but at least you have a better understanding of where that person is coming from. I think, too, from a transition perspective, when people move from one career to the next, whether by choice or involuntarily, there's this idea that they have to go back to square one, and there's a lot of fear in that. And, the shame of I'm the new person, or if I'm someone in my 50s who has been displaced, I'm embarrassed that I have to start all over again.
Yeah.
And the shame versus, hey, you know, the wise words of it is what it is. How do I make the best of it? How do I learn and grow? This is an opportunity for me to experience something new in my life. A door that opens, and the possibilities can be very many.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that was pretty good. I really enjoyed having you on today and being able to talk through, you know, kind of couples mingled with transitions and everything. And we look forward to future podcasts of having you on, because we know that you have a lot of ideas of things that you'd like to talk about.
I do.
Yep.
We definitely didn't have the time to get into everything today, but yeah, it was a great opportunity to talk through kind of those two domains mingled together, because it is something that is very common and important to talk about, because like you said, we just don't have a tendency to talk too often when we're couples. We get so used to assuming what the other person is thinking or doing, and we lack sometimes the ability to communicate with one another. So
Well, awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time and doing this, and yeah.
So stay curious.
Absolutely.
awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for
today.
joining us.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Embracing New Life is a production of New Life Resources, a Christian counseling clinic in southeast Wisconsin, whose aim and goal since 1976 has been to provide high-quality professional counseling, psychological, and consulting services from within a Christian framework.